Alright guys, today we're going to get into a video that's going to recap my thoughts after about a week on the Hinderer Firetac. But as always, we're going to start with what I'm carrying today. So obviously I'm carrying my Firetac because that's one of the knives that I'm going to go over. I'm also carrying my Fatty S&G, you can see here, and I am carrying my Zach Wood Pry and Pop in, see if it'll focus, 3V. If you've been following my Instagram feed, you'll notice that these three knives have been in there a lot. Yes, I do think they are that good, or not three knives, two knives and pocket tool. These three things have been in my rotation consistently since I got back from Blade. They are that good, but we can talk about all that in a different video. Let's focus on the Firetac, which is where we're gonna start. Excuse me guys. Today I actually made some notes so that way I can kind of stay on point. The first note is fit and finish. This knife is incredibly centered. I mean, there's no doubt whatsoever if this blade is centered or not. And this blade well is pretty tight. The finishing on the scale is done. It has been done extremely well. The finish on the titanium has been done extremely well. The hardware, extremely nice hardware. Even details like the texturing on the thumb disc here, very well done. There's even a little bit of a relief here for access to the thumb disc. Now I will talk about that in a second. The only thing that I don't necessarily care for, and it's a design feature obviously, is how these the pivot screws are proud of the material. And I believe, let me turn it this way, you can see it there, it's proud on either side. Now the one thing about it is, while we're talking about hardware, is there are no proprietary tools needed to take this knife apart. I have not taken this knife apart, doesn't need it, but these all use Torx bits, I believe. Either it's Torx or it's hex. I haven't taken it apart, so but anyway, it's something that's easily accessible. So fit and finish is excellent. Can't complain about it a bit. Now, I said I was going to talk about this thumb disc and the relief here. Now, my opinion, and I've used this knife a fair amount over the past week and a half. I'm gonna always come up almost like a CRK, like a Chris Reeves knife, and I'm gonna slide my thumb parallel to the scale like this, and I'm gonna open the knife up using the front edge of this disc. So this relief here is more cosmetic than anything. Now, with that being said, I also don't think you're gonna come off the side like this, because if you hold the knife like that, your fingers press on this lock bar, and that makes this knife impossible to get open. That is one thing about the knife. So I don't know how much function this has, but I think it's more of a cosmetic thing. So that's that. The lock bar stabilizer and the steel insert. I believe you can see that there's a screw here, and you can definitely see the steel insert here. However, there's also a lock bar stabilizer. Now, I know this will be a controversial thing, and I'm sure you guys will post down in the comments below. If you don't know, the purpose of the lock bar stabilizer is twofold. So one, it keeps you from pushing the lock bar out too far this way here. So this will not allow you to push the lock bar out but so far. It also, because it fits so tightly in here, you cannot push the lock bar down towards the other part of the scale. Now, if you see, let me close this up. If you see how thin of a line that is, maybe that's a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. I don't think that pushing this down is gonna be the end of the world. That's just my opinion. You can see the steel insert extends down, and there's actually a relief. And I don't know, yeah, you can see it right here. There's a relief cut into the titanium scale, and that actually acts as an over travel stop as well. So I feel like That's a little bit redundant to have both. Like I said, I know that this serves two functions. It also serves the function of not being able to push the lock bar down onto the other side of the scale, but I really think that's that's splitting hairs, especially in a knife that clearly was not meant to lift up manhole covers or anything like that with. Not saying, you know, that if that's your thing, you can't do it, but just saying. Next up is smoothness. I noticed over the week and a half or so I used the knife, I've opened and closed it a bunch. It got smoother. Now it doesn't drop free, but you can see it shakes closed. It's perfectly smooth. It's smoother than most knives that you'll handle. I still don't necessarily love that feel of the nylon washers, but it is smooth. It is very smooth. I have not put any oil on this either. The texture on the thumb disc, and I don't know if this will come up on the camera, but if it does, like I said, I use the thumb disc like this. I push up on the thumb disc, and because it is textured and because the texture is so fine, it picks up a good amount of junk and debris. I don't know if you can see the difference between the two sides there. So that, you know, it is what it is. Lockup. The lockup has changed. It was, and it looks like it's changed again, but it was around 50% of the steel insert covered. Now it's more like 75 to 80%. It's not the end of the world. It's still fairly early lockup. I'm not concerned about it. And the whole point of the steel insert is to be able to just unscrew the screw, drop a new insert in there, and be good to go. But just wanted to note that for whatever it's worth. The sharpness and the edge. What I noticed about this edge, and hopefully it'll come across, I think it is, you can see it's semi-polished. Now that was a first for me for a Hinderer knife. They don't usually polish their edges up like this unless they've recently started, but I thought that that was pretty interesting. And this knife is sharp. There was some fabric paint on some wood at work, and I wanted to get the fabric paint off of the wood, so I just laid the edge parallel to the wood and tilted it just a hair and slid down the wood, and I mean it was cutting curls off the wood with the belly of this knife. This knife is extremely sharp. It doesn't feel super sharp, but it is extremely sharp. The thumb ramp, and I had a discussion with one of the guys on my Instagram page about this. I feel like this thumb ramp is more of the style of the Bark River Bravo 1, where your thumb is meant to go in front of it and kind of pull back into it. I don't know if that's the design purpose, but that's what I feel in use. But my hand, again, I have extra large hands, wear a extra large glove, and my hand is 4 inches from one side of my palm to the other side. When I put my hand on this knife, it just drops right down in front of it, and most of the pressure is up here on the thumb disc itself, which gives you a good flat spot to put your thumb. And I don't even really feel this thumb ramp here. Now the guy was talking about filing this off, and he actually did file this first hump off on his, or filed it down some. I don't know if it's hand size or what. I'm not a modifier, number one, and number two, it's not a big enough deal for me that I want to get rid of the knife or modify it. When my thumb is right here, I don't feel it at all. Now when I try to force it back here, it's uncomfortable. My grip shifts. I feel like I'm sliding off the back of the knife. So when I hold it like this, just a natural grip, however my hand falls on the knife, feels very good. Very ergonomic, and there are no issues with this thumb ramp. But that is something to note if you do have smaller hands, where your thumb is going to fall on the back of this knife, and that thumb ramp may become an issue for you. Overall, the ergonomics of the knife, it is a little bit thinner in this dimension. It's, you know, pretty much standard size in this dimension. It's long enough for, I think, any hand to handle. It's a basic shape, so it's not the most ergonomic knife. It's not like an Emerson that you hold and it just has all the curves in the right spot, but it's not a knife that's very uncomfortable to hold either. It's somewhere right in the middle, and again, that's going to be a subjective thing due to your hand size and your liking for styling and features. Speaking of the value of this knife. Now, like I said, I bought this knife full retail. I usually do not buy Hinderers at full retail. Actually, 2 days after I bought this knife for $425, one of these knives sold for $325 on Blade Forum. Another one sold for $369 on eBay the same day I bought this knife, I believe. So I would hold off a little bit. It seems like the market has dried up for these knives as far as their availability. They've all been sold out for a little bit here. I would hold off and wait either for another run, or I would wait for people to start selling knives. We're at the end of Blade. People usually have bought too much at Blade. They need to sell some things, and it's going to be vacation time, so a lot of family guys and ladies are selling knives to fund family activities. So I would hold off, and if you can get one of these for $325, $350, I think this is an excellent value. As always, I would not pay full retail for any Hinderer if we're talking about pure value. You're losing money. Is it worth $400? That's up to you. But when I could get a brand new knife that's $425 for $100 less, I think the value is in buying that knife at the $300 price point. Do I feel like I wouldn't have paid $425 for it again? After handling this knife and using this knife, I'm okay with the $425. Of course, I wish I would have saved the $100 that could have gone somewhere else, but I feel okay with the $425. This is a knife that I like. This is a knife that I feel like will stay around in my collection, and it's a knife that I am happy to have and to use. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm almost up to 150,000 views. I'm well over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all for the support. I appreciate it. Hope to catch you guys in the next video. And remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.